and particularly, Justin, whetting my appetite for this game this weekend. It's the clash at Ewood Park on Saturday afternoon. Blackburn Rovers versus Southampton, or as it perhaps should be known, El Shitico. Instead, though, Justin, I'll ask you the same question that I ask every single week, which the world is dying to know the answer to. What derby is this?
Still our best derby.
Fuck's You are completely fascinated by picking the most bang average footballers ever to associate these derbies with, aren't you?
Is this not the point of this entire thing?
No, it's to talk about like a player who's celebrated by both sides. I suppose you could be boring and say the Alan Shearer derby, I guess, but I think the Adam Armstrong derby is more applicable.
Bore off.
I think because
bore off.
Really?
Come on. Yeah.
Why?
You could have had Sam Gallagher, Lee Williamson, Taylor Harwood-Bellis, James Beattie, Kevin Davis, Graham Rousseau, Ben Breton Diaz, Joe Rothwell, and of course Leon Best. And you go with Adam Armstrong. So obvious, Ryan. So obvious.
I mean, he's done much better at both clubs than all of those players you just mentioned there. Well, Southampton and Blackburn fans what they think about that, but Armstrong's played over 150 games for both of these, scored a lot of goals for both of them as well.
Yeah, well, Leon Best is Leon Best.
That says it all, I think, doesn't it? I will say, when I saw this fixture in the schedule for this weekend, my immediate thought, Justin, was this is a very early 2000s Premier League feel about it, doesn't it? Blackburn versus Southampton. It might actually be the most 2003 Premier League fixture you can actually come up with, really, isn't it?
I was about to say this is just 2003. This is it just screams 2003. You get your Tamagotchis out, guys, because you're going back in time here. It's good stuff. You are bang on with that. I love that. I've got nothing else to say because now I'm just swelled with nostalgia, and I'm just going on a trip here. Just going on a trip.
It's the Marion Pahars versus Matt Jansen derby.
Marion Pahars versus Corrado Grabidi.
Grabby, you mean?
Yeah, that's the one. It's been a while.
Flipping heck.
I've not thought about him for 20 years, mate. Come on.
I think about him every day. But look, Justin, the reason we picked this game as the game of the weekend is because they are two sides in dire need of a win. Blackburn, second from bottom, having lost 7 of their 10 games this season. Southampton have just 2 wins in 11. 2 managers in Valérien Ismaël and Will still under growing pressure, and neither can really afford a loss here.
Yeah, and it's obviously for various reasons that are very obvious. I mean, Southampton need to get the season going sooner or later. But actually just need to get wins on the board, because 4 wins since that playoff final in May 2024. Boy, oh boy, that feeling is rare. Yeah, it's crazy to think that, their 5th win in this run of games, we were there for it at Wembley in London 18 months ago. It's sickening, really. But that's why Southampton need to win. Not necessarily to get the season up and running, just to get confidence back in everybody. What does winning feel like from a Saints fan? Come on. We'd love to know. It's so rare. But with Blackburn, for me, they're in danger. They're in some serious danger. 2 wins all season isn't good. Obviously, it's the same amount as Southampton, but 1 draw all season as well. Losing has become a bit of a habit for Rovers, which is a trend they need to buck very, very quickly.
Yeah, and we'll talk more about Blackburn shortly. I'm still getting over just 4 wins since the playoff final. That feels like a lifetime ago, that does. But Southampton midfielder Shea Charles has been talking after their loss to Bristol City in midweek, and has defended Will Still and says the players are to blame. He said he's coached a win at the weekend, he's coached a win on Tuesday, but we've just not been able to put it onto the pitch. We haven't scored our goals and kept it out of our net. So in my opinion, that's nothing to do with the manager. It's us players on the pitch. And he's kind of said it in a bit of a confusing way, but that kind of echoes what I was saying about Will Still in yesterday's show, Justin. They were very unlucky against Bristol City on Tuesday. A couple of errors at the back, not putting away their chances. It's cost them. And then how they didn't win against Swansea last weekend is anyone's guess. So they have played well in these past few days. If they keep doing that, things will turn for them eventually. It's just a matter of whether it turns in time for Will Still.
Yeah, it's interesting the way Shay Charles has framed it, because there is a large element of what he's actually said. He's talking out of his arse, but the sentiment in what he's saying is probably quite true, in that the past two performances should have yielded a lot more than 1 point, probably more like 4, maybe. But also,
say 4 at the very least, to be honest.
Yeah, I know, but that Bristol City, the way they defended, I've got to do better. But this the whole part and parcel of football. It's I think it's too absolute and too basic to argue that they haven't been scoring or keeping the ball out of the back of the net, because that has been the case. But there's a lot more to football than that. But at the same time, the team has been creating a lot more chances to be putting away, and they just haven't. And of course, defensively, they make far too many mistakes. And whilst the players do need to improve, there are elements that will still need to improve. I go back to the Derby games before the international break, for example, where Ross Stewart goes off injured, and rather than bring Damien Downs on directly and keep that presence in that final third, he moves Adam Armstrong centrally, and it completely nullifies their attack. They have no presence. They really drop off at that point. So there are mistakes that are being made by Will still, so he's not exempt from criticism. That being said, the players absolutely do need to be doing better.
Yeah, I think that's probably fair. Will Still could definitely have done better in many games this season, but I do see what Shay Charles is saying. I don't think he's done that much wrong, really. It's just fine margins, isn't it? Individual errors have cost them, and I think that's down to confidence. It's obviously going to be low after a very bruising season, and it's really hard to pick up a team when, as you're alluding to, they've only won 4 games in the past year and a bit. In fact, I remember at the start of the season, people were saying things like, any one of Southampton's strikers would walk into any other team in the division. And even now, that's probably not too incorrect. Adam Armstrong, Cameron Archer, Ross Stewart when fit, even Damien Downs, who they spent $6 million on in the summer. Can't forget about him now at this stage. They've got the supporting cast with the likes of Finn Azaz, Tom Fellows, some of the new signings from Germany like Leo Cienza, who's cost a lot of money. You've got a team here with so much firepower, and it's misfiring. Just they've scored as many goals this season as Derby. And we've seen Derby in person a lot this season. That's bad. So all that talent struggling to put away those chances, it's not good. But if the last couple of games are anything to go by, they're getting in the right positions. And if they keep doing that, it will surely click for them sooner rather than later. Will Still just needs it to be sooner, ideally.
Well, he needs that to be sooner, because you need to turn around the fan sentiment potentially towards him. You know, as you were saying in our midweek show, where all you see is fans waving their arms. You know exactly what they're gesticulating. They're not happy. They're not happy waves, are they? So he needs a win to lift the mood at the club. It's just interesting they've got so much firepower and none of it is putting the ball in the back of the net. I do feel missing Ross Stewart is a significant problem, because he's, out of all of those players, I feel like I have the most confidence in him to be the most active and create the most presence in that final third than any of the other forwards. But the forwards that they've got fit and available, 41 games been played between them. This year, just 8 goals. Good grief. That's bad. Yeah. It's really, really bad. So many forwards at that club, and he's got 8 goals between them. But it's not like they're not getting chances either. They created the second highest XG. They average the third highest shots on target per game. They're 5th for highest big chances created in the league. So they are creating, they are getting the ball in the good areas for these forwards, but it's not putting the ball in the back of the net. And it's a very simplistic thing to say, but that's it. And how do you change that? Well, you don't. You just wait for someone to score, and then hopefully more score. Simple.
Well, that's what we're saying, isn't it? It's fine margins which have cost Southampton, particularly recently, and hopefully in time it will click. But yeah. If it doesn't click soon, then will find himself in even more trouble than he is now. But without a doubt, Southampton will definitely fancy themselves against a Blackburn side who are really struggling, aren't they? Particularly at home. They've lost every game bar one at Ewood Park this season. Should keep in mind they should have 3 points at home if it wasn't for that Ipswich game getting postponed a few weeks ago. But that in a nutshell sums up their luck right now, doesn't it? Particularly in front of their own fans. And if Blackburn are going to stay up, home form is one thing that obviously has to get better quickly, doesn't it?
Well, you talk about home form being important for any team, and it's true, but it can be the difference between going down and staying up. Derby are a great example of it last season, where They really, really struggled away from home, only a handful of wins away from home. But the home form was largely pretty good, and it does keep you in a division. But yeah, with this Rovers side, it's hard to know.
They're not great home or away, to be honest, are they?
Well, yeah, they've been pretty shit all season. It was why the 23rd. But I do feel like the fan atmosphere at Ewood Park, there's a growing criticism because people are noticing how empty Ewood Park is, and obviously fans are staying away because what is the interest? They don't believe in the ownership, so why are they going to believe in the team that the ownership has put together? Not the ownership, but the decision makers that put together. So there are a lot of problems at Blackburn, and I do feel that what's happening on the pitch is probably the least of those problems, if you like.
Yeah, I would just hit back on what you were saying there, because I don't think it's just this season that Ewood Park has been empty. It's been like that for a while, to be honest, hasn't it? Let's be completely frank here. Ewood Park hasn't been for a while the most joyful home atmosphere in the Championship. Every so often, you'll see someone post about the percentage of stadiums being filled in the Championship, and Blackburn is always at the bottom, or almost always at the bottom. They struggle to reach 15,000 most weeks, which is quite a strange thing for a club as big as they are. But I think over the years, as you say, some fans have just thought, what's the point? Well, we've got these owners. Now, some seasons it hasn't really affected them. Like last season, their home record was actually decent last season. But when things aren't going well, Ewood Park feels like a really desolate place. And things definitely aren't going well this season, to the point where Valérien Ismaël can't have much longer left, can he, Justin?
Well, it's hard to tell with this Blackburn board, isn't it? Because what is their decision-making process? Who's involved in that decision-making? I mean, you can make the argument that Ismaël probably saved his job at the end of last season by that late run of form heading into the final few games, where for some bizarre reason, despite it being catastrophically bad when he first joined the club, they were still within a shout of the playoffs with a couple of games to go. But when I talk about decision-making process, they've obviously sold a host of experienced players. They've replaced them with inexperienced players from abroad, which could pay dividends, but you don't get that experience back, and that's the experience that they need right now. They've banned journalists. Club's on its knees. And, this is why I say that what happens on the pitch is the least of the problems, because they've gone down before, and it's not prompted the Venky's to sell, or at least to push to sell. They've stayed put. So it's like, well, what is going to be the turning point for these owners? And that runs through everything within the club, every fibre of the club. So, it's going to be a case of if Ismaël does go, who's going to want the job? That's another question, because, again, you go back a while ago, Owen Coyle got the job, didn't he? Well, the season they were relegated. It's just, a host of bad
decisions. You go back a longer way there, but
that's when they were last relegated.
Your point.
Yeah.
I guess. I get your point. They always find someone, because we always say that about so many jobs, don't we? Who would want that job? But they always find someone eventually. And going off the back of what you were saying, I do feel a bit sorry for Ismaël, because I think it's just another manager who's been let down by those above him. He's not the only one in the Championship this season, but he's certainly one of the prime candidates. And to echo your point, we were lamenting Blackburn's transfer business over the summer. It's not just players who are important for them on the pitch, it's those in the dressing room as well. And they have been replaced with a bunch of unknowns, essentially. So if Ismaël does go, I wouldn't be holding out hope for his replacement to massively improve them, because I'm struggling to see this team having enough strength to do that. And yeah, we know what the Blackburn hierarchy are like. They've fallen out with the last two managers. There's been board members who have left over frustrations about the long-term ambition. It's not good, and it wouldn't surprise me if they make Ismaël the latest scapegoat, as well as journalists being banned for criticising the team. But let's have a prediction in this one, Justin. Blackburn Rovers versus Southampton at Ewood Park on Saturday afternoon. What are we thinking, big boy?
Southampton's the easy choice, isn't it? The form of Rovers, the quality that Southampton possess. It's going to be a case of, at some point, things are going to click for the Saints. That being said, I think the hardest opponent Southampton have this weekend is themselves. So if they beat themselves, if they don't beat themselves, they win the game. That's right, isn't it?
They don't beat themselves, they win the game. No,
I feel like if they beat
themselves.
But I feel like if they beat themselves, I've made a mess of that. You get the point. Southampton to win.
You say I get the point. I don't think I did until he just clarified it then. But yeah, I'm the same. I'm going to go for a Southampton win. As I say, I don't think they're far off. I've been impressed with them in their last couple of games, despite failing to win. It feels like it's a matter of time before it starts coming off for them. This is a great opportunity against a very out of form Blackburn side who are woeful at home. They're missing the best player in Todd Cantwell as well. We haven't even mentioned that. So if Southampton don't win, it will be entirely their own fault, as it has been for the last couple of games, because Blackburn really should be there for the taking. So yeah, they just have to beat themselves, I guess. Sounds a bit wrong now, actually, that I say it like that. Anyway, we'll have a quick break, Justin. After that, we'll talk about Sheffield Wednesday and then make some bloody predictions for the weekend. Welcome back to the Second Tier podcast. It's Friday, it's the preview show, and it's now time for this.
Wednesday Watch.
Yes, it is, ladies and gentlemen. Sheffield Wednesday are in action at Hillsborough again this weekend. They face Oxford on Saturday afternoon. We're still waiting for news on this looming winding up petition for Wednesday. They played a midweek, of course, at home to Middlesbrough, and many Wednesday fans boycotted the game, meaning it was an odd atmosphere, wasn't it? It was almost a bit like a COVID football game all over again, wasn't it? The Sheffield Wednesday Supporters Trust also projected a message onto one of the stands calling for Chansiri to get out of the club, and we've been saying at various stages that Wednesday fans need to take their protests to the next level and start boycotting games, Justin. With this being shown live on Sky, I thought it was very effective.
I thought it was very effective as well. It was quite. It was just strange, and it really did make you think a little bit, because I think I saw things coming through on social media, and you always think, it's just late revellers getting in. It's always the case, especially on a night game. You expect it a little bit, but the ground never filled up, and like you said, it was quite a stark, I think, image to see, especially in a midweek night game at home, because I prefer night games over Saturday 3 p.m. I don't know about anybody else. It's just a personal preference of mine. I think night games are great, and it's where all the drama unfolds. But I think what you need to do is credit every single fan who was involved in the messaging for it, but also those who bought into it, because it's a very difficult thing to have a season ticket and not turn up, basically. And to do it, to make a statement, I think, everyone deserves a hell of a lot of credit, because it really was quite a sight.
Yeah, the season ticket holders in particular, I think, are the ones who have got to get the most credit there, because they've ultimately paid for their ticket and have taken the stand here, and it worked really well. All I saw on Thursday morning were match reports and what have you, and news reports saying Sheffield Wednesday fans boycott Middlesbrough game and things like that. And I was in the pub on Wednesday night and didn't have the sound on the TV, but I did hear one or two people commenting on the number of fans in the ground. So it's piquing people's interest and it's catching people's eyes, even if they're not fully paying attention to the game and what have you. So that goes to show it's working. And in the long run, hopefully that should make some sort of a difference to Wednesday's position. Now, listeners may remember in Sunday's show how we were talking about Wednesday being without a senior goalkeeper for this game after their emergency keeper, Ethan Horvath, was suspended. Now, usually I believe clubs aren't allowed to sign another emergency keeper, but the EFL gave special dispensation for them to sign Joe Lumley on a 7-day loan from Bristol City and ended up having the game of his life against Borough, didn't he? Albeit somehow got away with a clear penalty shout, Justin.
The clearest penalty shout you will ever see, by the way, because he nearly sent Tommy Conway back to Bristol City. It was that bad, bearing in mind he's now at Middlesbrough. But he was excellent. He really was. You can't even say he was playing for his future either, because he's going to go back to Bristol City on Sunday.
Yeah.
And Bristol City, it kind of benefits them because they know they've got someone who's capable of stepping up. But I do feel like Joe Lumley is like that. He one of those unique goalkeepers who can just randomly drop a worldie performance, and he did.
But can also have clanger after clanger after clanger. Yes. Yeah, he's definitely capable of a clanger in the time that we've seen him at Reading, QPR. He's at Southampton for a bit, didn't he? I don't think he played much for Southampton, though. But we've seen a lot of Joe Lumley over the years, and he's definitely capable of the old clanger. And in what turns out to be quite a bizarre situation, Ethan Horvath is now back available for this weekend, and Lumley is still at the club because, as you say, he goes back on Sunday or Monday. According to the Sheffield Star, Lumley has to play in goal. Apparently, it's because when you sign an emergency goalkeeper, you have to play them. And even if Horvath is also an emergency keeper, I guess Lumley takes priority because he's the most recent. So quite a strange rule, which I certainly didn't know. But basically, Horvath, despite being an emergency goalkeeper, has got to sit on the bench for this game.
First time ever that you're going to have 2 emergency goalkeepers in a matchday squad, which I think is incredible and definitely speaks to the circumstances that Sheffield Wednesday are in. A gluttony of 999 goalkeepers. It's incredible. It's just bizarre. And I hope it never happens again. Obviously, I mean, injuries dependent, obviously, in other clubs. But yeah, the emergency loan system. Lovely stuff.
Yeah. Who would have thought? Let's see if he can pull off more heroics this weekend, because it's Sheffield Wednesday v Oxford at Hillsborough. Justin, how do you see this one going?
I'm going to say a draw. I think Wednesday are awful at home. Oxford have collected just 4 points away. I mean, if Oxford turn up like they did against Derby last weekend, then Oxford will win comfortably. But likewise, they were so-so against Wrexham in midweek and they lost. But it's going to be a draw, but maybe Oxford edging it. Hard to see that happening there.
Yeah, it's becoming increasingly difficult about Wednesday, isn't it? Because they are really struggling now. Things like the winding up petition obviously don't help, not just in terms of the club's future, but also with the points deduction if they go into administration, because it effectively means Wednesday's players are just fighting for pride now this season, because they won't stay up if they have the points deductions. I will probably be backing them to lose almost every week from now on, but at the same time, I haven't been too impressed with Oxford. They, as you say, played well against Derby last week, but then I'd actually disagree with you against Wrexham. I thought they were really poor. Even though Wrexham were down to 10 men for the final 20 minutes, Oxford didn't really trouble them. So I'll probably just go for a draw here as well, I think. I wouldn't be at all surprised if these two are in the bottom 2 come May, because I think they've both got their own issues, obviously, one much more so than the other. Anyway, let's have a look ahead to this weekend. It is the preview episode of the second tier. So Justin and I, we're going to make some bankers, a team we think is going to win this coming weekend, as well as an outsider. So someone we think is going to win, but it's bigger odds with the bookies than their opponents. We're tracking how we do as the season goes on. It's 1 point for a correct banker, 2 points for an outsider. Whoever loses has to do a forfeit, which is to become a Frank Lampard superfan for the day. The current scores are 10-8 to myself. I drew a blank last week for the first time in a while. Justin got his outsider correct, so very much all to play for, Peachy.
Yeah, I'm rolling again. This is where it comes. I'm gonna get ahead again once more. I weirdly went into a running order from last year, and I was well ahead of you. I was hammering you.
Yeah, I around this time last year, I was having an absolute stinker. I was not doing very well at all. But this season, it's a lot more competitive, just like the Championship season as a whole. We reflect how that works, don't we? Anyway, Justin, let's get on to your banker for this weekend. Who do you think is guaranteed to win?
Guaranteed to win. What a way to phrase it.
I mean, that's literally what a banker is. But
yeah.
Over the past few weeks, we haven't had much success with our bankers, have we? Because it's been so bloody unpredictable.
Yeah, I mean, the desperate inconsistency of the Championship. But one team that hasn't been inconsistent is Coventry City. And I've gone with them to win at home against Watford on Saturday lunchtime. Coventry beating Portsmouth in midweek, I think, only exemplified how much of a good side they are. Portsmouth is a very hard place to go. They lost 4-1 there last season. But they won again, did it without Haji Wright. Brandon Thomas-Asante was excellent once more. Ellis Sims came in. He's really starting to find his form and be a nice little link for that final third. They're still unbeaten. They've come off the back of a record-breaking run of clean sheets against Blackburn as well. Of course, they conceded against Portsmouth, but that's just detail. They're coming up against a Watford team here who they can go either way, because as they showed last weekend, they were quite poor against Sheffield United. Then they got the win in midweek against West Brom. But in addition to this, I hope Coventry would find confidence knowing that there isn't anyone else in the division that can match them. I think that's a big thing. They are the most consistent team. They're still unbeaten. They got the best attack. Very close to having one of the best defences in the division as well. They're a complete team. And to come up against an inconsistent team in Watford, very nice banker.
Yeah, I'm going to give our listeners a look behind the curtain here, because when we do our predictions each week, we submit them into our WhatsApp group. And Justin was so desperate to pick Coventry, he called me while I was submitting my picks to try and distract me so he could pick them first as his banker, even though I wasn't even picking Coventry, but he was that desperate to make sure that he got them in first.
Yeah. It was quite sneaky from me and actually quite a good tactic. I called you on my phone, but I was typing on WhatsApp web. So there we go.
Yeah. I answered the phone. I said, hello. I didn't hear anyone respond. So I just heard like fingers tapping away on a keyboard. It was very confusing. But look, we'll get on to who I actually picked in a second. But obviously, Coventry are in unbelievable form. They are, without a doubt, the most obvious pick for this weekend. I imagine anyone who does the old last man standing, Coventry will be a very popular pick in that regard. But if I could play devil's advocate, surely this run has to come to an end at some point. Not just the winning streak, but the unbeaten run as well. Because in all seriousness, you've got a whole team here who have played out of their skin for most of the season. And it's virtually the same side who only squeezed into the playoffs on the final day of last season. They've obviously got a lot of really good players. But dare I say they're not that good that they can sustain this forever. That's obviously not that outlandish a thing to say because they're not going to sustain it forever. But I look at someone like Brandon Thomas-Asante, for example. His best goal-scoring season is 11, despite him having several years in League Two. And he's on 8 goals already for the season after 11 games. He surely can't keep scoring at this rate. And the same goes for several of their other players as well. So I don't know if it's going to happen this weekend because all available evidence suggests it won't. But surely the tide has to turn against Coventry eventually, Justin.
It's a good question, and I think the clearest answer to it is what we've seen so far with the Championship is everyone else is, I wouldn't say tosh, that's quite harsh, but they're not consistent. They're not getting that run of games together that Coventry have, and that momentum has just snowballed. And now it's just relentless from Coventry, and that's the key thing. And like I said, they're going to take confidence knowing that there isn't a team at the moment that matches them in the entire division. Now, come January, that will change. But if they go unbeaten until January, that wouldn't surprise me. That being said, it's a very difficult thing to do when you've got to play 10 or 11 games in the space of about 6 weeks between November and the end of December. So we'll see how it goes. But I think this is a nice game to come up in against Watford because they blow hot and cold. Coventry just blow hot. So even if Coventry are blowing hot and Watford are blowing hot, I still think Coventry will come out the victorious.
Yeah, like a hand dryer right now, aren't they? Coventry just constantly blowing hot. One other, I'm just going to continue to play devil's advocate for a bit longer, Justin. Coventry at home this season, they've strangely impressed me more away from home, I think. Last weekend against Blackburn, they're actually pretty fortunate because they were poor for a lot of that game. Before that, they're at home to Birmingham, won 3-0, were helped by Jack Robinson and a stupid sending off in the first half. Coventry against Norwich, that was a weird game because Coventry just could not put the ball in the back of net for love nor money, which has not been the case on many occasions this season. There was the 7-1 against QPR, which was also a strange game because that was the complete opposite of the Norwich game where every shot went in despite, not, I don't know. It was just a strange game. And then the other home game they had this season in the league was against Hull, where they're actually maybe quite fortunate to not lose that game in the end.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? They haven't been, despite how impressive they have been in various games, they haven't been rip snorting at home.
No, they have been better away, I think. I think that's the balance of things. They've been better away. That being said, they've won 3 games at home. They obviously haven't lost any. They've only conceded 2 goals at home. They scored 13 and 7 came in one game. The Blackburn game was their worst performance at home all season, I think, and they won 2-0. And if that's the marker, then God help the rest of the division. Simple as that. So even if they don't play very well, I think they're showing that they've got the confidence and quality to really overcome any opposition, doesn't matter who it is.
Yeah, when I say they haven't been rip snorting at home, I probably don't mean that. I mean, they haven't been as imperious at home is probably a better way of putting it than you might expect. And look, Coventry fans will wonder why we're picking holes in them. It's because they're top of the league. And when you are top of the league and as impressive as they have been in these first few games, we're looking for holes in them to see if they can sustain it. And right now it's quite tricky to pick holes in them. But that's just a few things I would say about Coventry and whether they can keep this going. But let's move on just into my banker for this weekend. I've gone with Ipswich Town to win at home against West Brom on Saturday lunchtime. Yeah, it's been a bad week for Ipswich. Firstly, they lost to Middlesbrough last Friday and then were surprisingly beaten 3-0 at home to Charlton on Tuesday. It's puzzling because Ipswich looked like they were really getting going just before the international break, and these two results have come as a surprise. In their defence, the Charlton game was a strange one. They've dominated for most of it. It wasn't a robbery by any means, but Ipswich could and should have done a lot better, having had the joint most shots in the Championship game for the past 9 years. They did make 7 changes for that game, so should be fresher than their opponents this weekend, West Brom, who have had mixed results. Won at home to Preston last weekend, but followed that up with a loss away at Watford in midweek. They haven't been great for a while now, particularly away from home. They've lost 3 of their last 4 on the road. The only one they didn't lose was when they won away at Norwich, which used to be an impressive result, but everyone's winning there this season. Defensively, they've been solid, but going forwards, they could be better. Despite having some talented attackers, they've got the 3rd lowest XG in the division, so chance creation needs improving. Ipswich can definitely be got at, do not get me wrong, but I would be surprised if those 2 defeats were a sign of things to come with them, because we all know about the talent they've got. They should get back on track, I'd have thought, and Kieran McKenna needs a win here. Otherwise, questions will definitely stop being asked about him, Justin.
Well, it's not a case of should, they need it. And I think questions are absolutely fair. You've got to scrutinise what's in front of you when you've got a very expensive squad that's been well assembled and invested in. Unfortunately, you're going to face greater scrutiny. That's just how it's going to work. And with that, they need to start showing that these players that they have invested in are going to perform. It's the same with any team. Norwich are another one. Derby, Wrexham, they're all underperforming. Southampton as well. They're all underperforming despite a fair bit of investment. And Kieran McKenna will be in that situation. The West Brom game, I think it's a nice one because, like you said, they're struggling to create chances. It feels like the only way they get in games is if they score a banger. They score an absolute screamer. Yeah, Mikey Johnson's been a culpable person for that in recent weeks. So it's a case of unless they do that, they don't really find a way through. So there's much to be desired with West Brom, which again with Ipswich, that really should hand the power into their hands here. But like Southampton, the biggest opponent Ipswich have got this weekend is themselves.
Yeah, absolutely right. I'm not going to disagree with anything you say there. Justin will take a quick break. After that, we'll go on to our outsiders for this weekend. Welcome back to the Second Tier Podcast. It's outsider time, Justin. Here on the preview show, what have you got for us for this weekend?
I've been getting me outside. Oh, I've got one, actually.
I was going to say.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
But you need this, don't you? You need this, because with it being a 2-point gap right now, the only way you're going to catch me this weekend is if you get this right. So this is a big old pick for you, matey.
It is, and I've gone with a big old pick. I've gone with Charlton to win away at Hull on Saturday afternoon.
Ooh.
This is a bold one. I think it is as much of an outsider as you could possibly get because of Hull. Because of how good they've been this season. Obviously, they're bigger ones. But
I was going to say, it's not as big an outside as you can get at all.
Oh, no, in terms of winnable points here, for me, it is. But I like this mainly because of Charlton. They showed in midweek that they can absorb pressure and take their moments. And Hull are a side that will give opposition moments. Simple. Charlton have drawn away at Bristol City and Derby. They've beaten Sheffield United and Ipswich all away from home. These difficult places typically to go and get results. But they've shown that they can operate, they can be comfortable, they can compete. Hull, though, they're a very good side. They have really picked up in form, and themselves, Millwall, Coventry, and obviously Middlesbrough. The spotlight's on them from my point of view. I'm really been really impressed with them over the past few weeks. But they're a very good side going forwards. They've been showing signs lately of as well, defensively finding a balance. So this will be a difficult game for both sides. I feel like if either one wins it, I would start to ask the question of, can either of these sides sustain a top 6 push? I would be in that bracket because I've been really impressed with them the last few weeks. There's a lot of recency bias there. But Charlton to win it away at Hull. Charlton to win it away. Nathan Jones to do it again. I want to see him pounding his chest in front of that away end.
Yeah. because we all love to see that, don't we? Apart from the vast majority of people who dislike Nathan Jones. But we are not amongst that group, are we, Justin? But yeah, I've been very impressed by these two recently. Charlton I've been impressed with all season, actually. I've been praising them pretty much every time we spoke about them. But, they've been a bit of a revelation. They ship a fair few goals, but score loads as well. Only Coventry have scored more than them now. And they were great against Leicester in midweek, played some really nice football and seemed to be improving. Got a really good home record, which goes against your outsider pick here, Justin. But both have been really impressive recently. So could we be talking about two unlikely playoff contenders here, to echo your point? Because they're certainly doing a lot better than anyone expected, aren't they? We can safely say that.
But I think the expectations on both of these teams was really low at the start of the season, which arguably plays into their hands. But with Hull, we always thought that the squad potential's there to push on. It's just whether or not they can get themselves organised and quiet behind the scenes in the hierarchy. And it seems that that's been the case, and Sergei Yakerovich has done a really good job in transforming them and getting the potential out of this attacking group of players that's been assembled over the past couple of seasons. That's obviously what Atronila Charlie wanted when he sacked Liam Rosenior. But with Charlton, they are a very adaptable team and a very awkward customer, which again I think serves you very well. And like I was saying in a midweek show, they've got players who have still yet to hit 4th, 5th top gear, if you like. And that's a very exciting thing. So I'm not suggesting that either of these teams can be in the playoffs come the end of the season, but I think it'll be worth a question as the season starts to progress and results start to pick up. Because I don't see these teams slowing down, is what I'm trying to say.
I won't rule it out, considering how well they've both started the season. Charlton in particular, I think, really look really, really impressive. Hull may have a few question marks as time goes on, but Sergei Yakerovich has definitely gone a long way to proving us both wrong, hasn't he, after the question marks were raised about him when he was appointed. And let's go to my outsider for this weekend. I've gone with Preston to win at home against Sheffield United tonight. Yeah, this is an interesting one. Paul Heckingbottom v Chris Wilder. They used to work together, of course, at Sheffield United when old Hecky was the under-23s manager. Then he eventually took over from Wilder when he left the first time, and then Wilder took over from Heckingbottom. So a nice little bit of narrative there. And Sheffield United will be heading into this one with the most optimism they've had all season. 2 wins on the bounce has finally seen them get off the foot of the table. And they're starting to look up for the first time in a while. They've been amazing in these 2 wins, though. Defensively, they've been solid. Going forwards, there's still work to do. Confidence is growing, but they're still a way off from the finished article. And look, Preston's a tricky place to go. People tend to underestimate how tricky a hunting ground Deepdale is. Since the beginning of last season, Preston have only lost 5 times there in the league. That 5th loss came against Birmingham in midweek. They were unlucky, had some decent chances. Paul Heckingbottom was particularly annoyed about refereeing decisions going against his side, and he may have had a case with a couple of them. But look, Preston have been pretty solid so far this season. Have perhaps been a bit unlucky with other recent results as well as the Birmingham game, and with their home record being as good as it is. As an outsider, I think this is a good pick. So I'm going with Preston to beat Sheffield United as my outsider tonight, Justin.
Yeah, that's not a bad shout. Obviously, Preston very strong at home. I think you're underplaying the Yorkshireness of this game. I know Preston are a Lancashire-based team, but it's just Heckingbottom versus Wilder. It's so Yorkshire on that touchline. It's Stuart McCall in there as well. It's just going to be all busted, all of that. Do you know what I mean? It's just.
I mean, I at no point did I consider the Yorkshireness of this because, as you quite rightly stated, Preston are based in Lancashire, so it wasn't something that crossed my mind, to be honest.
Yeah, we don't want to unleash the War of the Roses again, do we? We don't want to be the cool.
I think you'll be surprised to know. Just I think they've gotten over that by now.
You never know, but I think we've Preston to win at home to against Sheffield United. I think if Sheffield United go and get 3 points at Deepdale, I think that's them well and truly back, and that will be a hard train to stop. But even a result away at Deepdale, I think will be a very good one because, like you said, I think a lot of people have probably not given it much of a second thought at how good Preston have been under Paul Heckingbottom at home since he took over 1 game into last season. So it's definitely a difficult place to go. Middlesbrough were very close to losing there earlier on this season. Last minute equaliser. It will be a difficult one. So I think them to win at home is a good shout. Very nice one actually. Maybe I should have picked that one if I didn't really consider that. I never really consider home games as outsiders. just because. But yeah, well done, Ryan. You did your homework.
Well, it usually doesn't tend to be, does it? Particularly when it's a team as strong at home as Preston are. But even despite your dirty tactics of calling me while you were submitting your predictions, I still managed to get a better outsider pick than you, I hope, saying with my fingers crossed. But yeah, it's interesting. We'll probably have to have a chat about this game on Sunday and whether, if Sheffield United do get the win, whether they are indeed back, because it says a lot that they've won back-to-back games. Still 21st. That goes to show how far off the pace they were after their terrible, terrible start. So, yeah, we'll see how they get on tonight. It's definitely going to be interesting. Have you seen, by the way, Ruben Sayers is back in work already, just a month after being sacked at Sheffield United. He's taken over as manager of Real Zaragoza in the Spanish second tier, the Segunda. And as soon as I saw that, I was like, bloody hell, Zaragoza, that's a throwback, isn't it? It's just one of those foreign teams who you used to hear about every so often because they were quite good at one point, but then sort of disappear and then you forget about them, a bit like Deportivo La Coruña. They're probably the best example, or I don't know, Racing Santander or something like that. But I mean, I'll be interested to see how Sayers gets on, because I still rate him as a manager despite the Sheffield United debacle.
Yeah, former employee of Paolo Pezzolano, of course, as well, Zaragoza.
Were they?
Yes.
No, I think you're making stuff up again, mate.
I'm 90% sure I'm right there. Anyway, former employer of David Villa, old Zaragoza. We'll go with that one.
Bloody hell.
I knew it wouldn't be long before
Pezzolano was at Real Valladolid.
Never mind. Like you said,
I was pretty sure it wasn't Zaragoza.
Forget about these clubs.
Perfectly shown there. But you know what I mean? Like, for people in Spain, they must think back to Nottingham Forest being in the Championship for years and be like, what happened to Nottingham Forest? They won the European Cup back in the 80s.
What happened to Stoke City?
Yeah. What are these teams doing nowadays? It must be the equivalent, mustn't it?
It's one of them. I genuinely, as harsh as it sounds, I don't think anyone elsewhere in Europe gives a shit about the Championship.
That's very rude.
They should do. But
say that on our Patreon, we've got loads of listeners from Australia, America.
Like I said, European.
Okay,
I think it's a British ego that we have to think, well, of course they're tuning into the Championship. I don't think they are, because
we've got Andreas. He's from Denmark. He's on our Patreon as well.
Okay, it's European.
Yeah.
That's
the only one, I think. But.
Yeah, there you go. We'll try and get more. We'll try and break that trend. But maybe Sayers is that link. Maybe Ruben Sayers will be the segue we need into a new market.
Yeah, I am just looking now. Zaragoza finished 18th out of the 22 teams in the Spanish second tier last season. They've only had one top half finish in the last 5 seasons. And the bookies have them down as the second least likely side to win the league this season. So it sounds like Sayers has got his hands full. I can just imagine the Spanish version of Ryan Justin asking, why is he taking this job on the Segunda tier podcast?
The Segunda tier podcast.
We'll see how he gets on, old Ruben Sayers. Right, that's our predictions for the weekend, ladies and gents. And now it's time for this.
All right. Settle down, you lot. It's time for the Craig Bryson pub quiz.
Yes, it is, Mr. Barman, and this is how it works. Justin is going to give me 6 clues about a Championship player, past or present, each more revealing than the last, and I simply have to guess who it is. They must have made over 200 Championship appearances in their career, and don't forget the Dexter Blackstock rule is in play. So what have you got for me, Justin Peach, you bastard?
I have made 348 appearances, scoring 12 goals.
That's a lot of appearances.
A lot of games.
Yeah. I'm going to assume it's a defender, and I'll throw out there Richard Keogh.
It is not Richard Keogh. I think Keogh scored a lot more than people think.
Maybe he did. He wasn't the tallest of centre-halves, was he? But
No.
maybe he played more than that many games as well, actually. Oh, well. Next one.
Next clue is I played in League 2, the Premier League, and then the Championship in that order permanently.
Permanently?
Mm-hmm.
What do you mean? So he finished his career in the Championship?
No, I mean he was a permanent player in League Two. Then he made appearances as a permanent player in Premier League.
Okay, fine,
he made,
fine.
Appearances as a permanent player in Championship.
Okay. I mean, League Two to Premier League is quite the step up, isn't it?
Big old step up.
Yeah. No one's coming to mind for me in that regard. I'm going to throw him out there, but I don't think it makes sense. Nicky Shorey.
It is not Nicky Shorey.
No. I don't know his early career that well, but I was just trying to think of someone who I can't think of what he was doing before playing in the Premier League. Next one, Justin.
I've also played on loan for Blackburn, Northampton and Leeds.
I mean, that doesn't fucking help me at all.
No, it doesn't. I've given you some nice clues in the last couple of times I've done this. Not today. Not today.
And I'm sleep deprived as well. What are the clubs again?
What? Whether the clubs were... I've also played on loan for Blackburn, Northampton and Leeds. I was clearing my throat.
Bradley Orr?
It's not Bradley Orr.
Did we have him a few weeks ago? We were talking about Bradley Orr for some reason.
Yeah,
weren't we?
he came up a couple of weeks ago. I'm not that daft. The next clue, Ryan?
Please.
Struggling. This is your fourth clue.
I haven't had anything to fucking go off yet.
Yes, you have. It's easy. This will give you some idea. I was in the England team that won the Toulon tournament in 2016.
For fuck's sake. These are the worst clues ever. What am I meant to do with these?
That won the Toulon tournament in 2016, playing with Jordan Pickford, Jack Grealish, Ben Chilwell, and Cauley Woodrow.
Okay. The Toulon tournament is the under-21s, isn't it?
It's a bit of a strange thing. It's between just four nations, I think.
So we're talking about someone there who I'm guessing is still playing in the Championship now. But I'm struggling based off the lack of other real solid clues I've got at my disposal. I don't know. I'll throw Jake Bidwell out there.
It's not Jake Bidwell.
I'm not bloody surprised because I need a bit more meat to this meal at the moment, I think.
There's a bit more protein coming your way right now, Ryan. In my time at Swansea, I missed just 4 games in 305 appearances.
Okay. I mean, I've got someone in mind. What were the loan spells again?
Blackburn, Northampton and Leeds.
Did he play for Blackburn? I know he played for Leeds. I don't know if he played for Blackburn, though. But he ticks all the other boxes, apart from the Toulon tournament, because who fucking knows about that. But I'll throw him out there because I think it's Matt Grimes.
It is Matt Grimes.
Thank God for that. Jesus Christ, you're giving me nothing there.
I've given you a lot lately, all right? So don't give me any of that.
I mean, I got a lot with that last clue you just gave me then, but up until that point, I was really scraping the barrel when it came to any idea of what player that was then. What's the last clue, Justin?
At 15 years old, I was part of an ultimate frisbee team that won a junior national championship. I also started my career at the smallest club in Devon, Exeter City.
Well, producer Tom is not going to like that, being a massive Exeter fan. I mean, the whole point of the clues is are more revealing than the last. I'm not sure his ex-frisbee career was the most revealing clue there, Justin, but I appreciated it nonetheless.
You're a betting man. I thought you'd have had your fingers in a lot of sports.
Frisbee, surprisingly, one of those which I've not been keeping across that much recently.
Yeah, don't think you can bet on kids' teams either.
Kids teams.
He was 15 years old.
Because he was 15. Yeah. Okay, fine. You probably can bet on frisbee. You can bet on bloody everything nowadays, can't you? But there we go. Matt Grimes, ladies and gents, the answer to this week's Craig Bryson pub quiz. And this has been the Second Tier Preview Show. We'll be back again on Sunday to talk about all the championship action. A lot of juicy action coming up for us this weekend. I cannot wait to dive headfirst straight into all of that. But this has been the Second Tier Podcast. I've been Ryan Dilks.
I've been Justin Peach.
And a big thank you for listening.